It's JVceo and welcome back to my channel. If you're a new viewer, make sure you subscribe, like and comment, and I mean it. And if you're a returning subscriber, then massive thank you, right? So, I'm doing some giveaways soon. I don't know when you're watching this video, but I will, generally speaking, pick out random people that have been very engaged in all my videos throughout from the very beginning, right? I'll pick random people out and I'll give things away, probably over Christmas. So just keep an eye out on that. With that being said, today's video I'm going to talk about is now a good time to buy. It's actually a question. I'm asking you. Is now a good time to buy? So give me your answers down below. Leave a comment. Leave a yes or a no. And feel free to give your reasons as well. And then watch the video. And then at the end of the video, tell me whether you still have the same opinion or whether you've changed your opinion. I was literally having a conversation with my broker, and you know, I told him what my acquisition strategy was in terms of the next 6 months and what properties I was looking to buy, the amount, the areas, and so on and so forth. And you know, we had a bit of a back and forth, and you know, I thought this would make for a very good video because he enlightened me on a few things, and I enlightened him on a few things as well, and just made him think differently. So at the moment, everyone is excited about the stamp duty relief, right? For first-time buyers, but also for second-time buyers, that being investors and so on and so forth, right? So everyone is excited for the stamp duty relief, but you have to understand, you know, how much savings you potentially could be making on the stamp duty relief. So for example, if you're a first-time buyer, where you probably would have paid £5,000 in stamp duty cost, you're now paying zero. That's a huge amount of savings. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to try and not put too much jargon, too much numbers to confuse you. Let's simplify the video so that you can actually understand the arguments that I'm making for and against. So that's there. You've got that savings there. But then on the flip side, according to several outlets, that being Zoopla, Foxton, Rightmove, they're all estimating that the property market will drop by around 14 to 17%. And you're thinking, why is that? The stamp duty ends on the 31st of March next year, 2021, right? And obviously at the moment, they believe that the market is massively inflated because people that wouldn't have bought are rushing to purchase a property simply to save money on the stamp duty cost, right? But now once this stamp duty goes to stamp duty holiday, then essentially speaking, the market would readjust and will probably drop by around 14 to 17%. So let's keep that thought there. And let's rewind back a bit in terms of why the stamp duty came in the first place. If you know anything about the economy, you would know that to prop up the economy, you have to prop up the property sector, because the property sector really is the heart and soul of the economy. And that's obviously what they've done. That's why they gave the stamp duty break and obviously gave that boost to the property sector, and hopefully that trickles down to the rest of the economy, which it actually did. So there you go. That's one reason to buy. You're saving on the stamp duty cost. But if we go into that a bit deeper, remember I said that a property could be losing, let's say, 14 to 17%. So now let's use the same example. On a 400 grand property where you're paying £0 in stamp duty, you save £5,000, right? Cool, as a first-time buyer. Right, let's say that now in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, towards the end of 2021, you've now lost 15% of the value on that £400,000. I believe that's around £60,000, right? So you've saved £5,000, but you've lost a mammoth £60,000. So it's not very even, is it? So that's, you know, that's one of the things for you to think about. Moving on from that, another thing for you to think about is what your strategy is. If you're a long-term sort of property investor, does it make a huge difference? No, it doesn't, because you can ride a wave and ride it back out, right? But if you're in the property market in the short term and for the short term gains, then you obviously want to milk as much as you can during that period. So now buying in this period, is that the best time to buy? Maybe not. Especially if you're potentially going to lose around 15% in around 12 to 18 months time anyways. So you probably want to time the market better in that regards. So that's where the strategy comes in, whether you're a long-termer or whether you're a short-termer. I know that's not a word, I've just made it up. Another thing for us to consider is LTVs. For those of you that don't know what LTV is loan to value. So that's how much you're putting in versus how much the bank is giving you. So generally speaking, pre-COVID, you probably would have able, if you're a first-time buyer, you probably would have been able to get a property for, I would say, probably 10% deposit. So that's what you call a 90% LTV. You probably would have been able to get a property for 10%. So you put down, let's say, on a 100 grand deal, you put down £10,000 and the bank would loan you the rest. But that all changed because the bank has learnt from the 2008 crash where they were very careless, and now they're actually showing a lot of caution, you know, and a lot of the lenders have pulled out or pulled off a lot of the first-time buyer sort of package that were on the market. In fact, some lenders have pulled off around 75% of the services geared towards first-time buyers. So now that means that potentially first-time buyers are actually having to put in more money before they get on the property ladder. Obviously, for investors, it does make a difference because most lending firms still have the same requirement of 25% deposit. But for first-time buyers, that big jump from a 10% deposit to a 15% deposit makes a huge difference, and an even bigger difference if you're buying in London. But now, on the flip side, you have to remember you've just saved under stamp duty. So potentially you could use some of those savings towards propping up the additional sort of 5% that you'd have to put in, because most lenders are now requiring 15% loan, 15% deposit for first-time buyers. And even if you take that further, is that really a negative? Maybe not really, because at the end of the day, that's still equity you have in the property. That's additional equity. And if anything, it insulates you against, you know, any rise in interest and so on and so forth, because then your payments would be lower anyway, because the more money you put up front, the lower your payments are on a monthly basis. However, there is that argument that the market is still inflated, and you're thinking, how's the market inflated? Like I spoke about earlier, a lot of people who wouldn't have purchased are now purchasing. That's number one. Number two, as you all know, there's been a lot of quantitative easing in terms of the economy. There's basically been a lot of money printing, from the BBL loans to furloughs and so on and so forth. And there is that argument that a lot of people that got the BBL loans are actually going up north to invest in properties with them. So that's caused an artificial inflation, because that's money that should have never been there in the first place, if that makes any sense. Or money that should have never even been in the property sector, because the BBL loans, essentially speaking, was geared towards, you know, helping businesses survive coronavirus, but you know, you couldn't use it to invest in properties, or property investment companies or property related companies weren't even getting the BBL loans. Now, brings me to a very important reason as to why I think you probably want to wait, sit on the back burner for a minute, analyze the market a bit more before pulling the trigger. There's a huge activity in the market right now. The market is hot. That's good for one person, the seller. Whenever the market is hot, it's never good for the buyers, it's good for the seller. And I'll tell you the reason why. It's good for the seller because obviously they have multiple people competing on the same property, which is bad for the buyer because then you're at risk of potentially overpaying for that deal, or even worse, or alongside that, being gazumped. And what that basically means is where you put in an offer, it gets accepted, you go start doing your conveyancing and so on and so forth. You pay your solicitors, and then you get a call from the estate agent saying, oh, someone has put in a higher offer than you. And let's say you don't want to put in an even higher offer, you then withdraw from that deal. That means that you've now lost all the money that you've paid to your solicitor. That's happened to me before. According to Zoopla, there's been a 182% increase in first-time buyer applications, and I believe 172% increase in next-time buyer applications. That literally reinforces the argument that the market is hot. And I can tell you that from first-time experience, being on the ground in Liverpool. Literally, the properties are on the market for literally a week or two, gone. You can't get a viewing for it. The market is hot, and that only benefits the seller. It's now the seller's market. So if you're a seller and you were ooming and ahhing about putting your property on the market, now is the right time for you to put your property on the market. As a buyer, that might actually hurt you, because as we've discussed, you probably end up overpaying for it anyways. So that's another reason why I think maybe now is not really the best time to purchase a property. You might want to sit down, wait for, you know, the sellers to get desperate so that you can come in and then potentially get properties below the market value. Because at the moment, there's no sellers that are selling their property below the market value, at least not in Liverpool, and I'm sure of that. Another reason why people are actually rushing into the market to purchase properties other than the stamp duty reasons is due to low interest rates. If you dig a little deeper, you'd actually find that that's the case, right? Which is great. But I think that's quite ill thought, because generally speaking, the lower the interest rates, the higher the property prices. Again, it's all about supply and demand. If a lot of people are rushing into the market to purchase a property, property prices are going to creep up, because now buyers know, hold on, rather than 80,000, I can put this property off for 95,000. It's still probably going to sell. So that's a rule of thumb. The lower the interest rates, the higher the property value. And the lower the property value, the higher the interest rates. It's that simple, because once interest rate goes up, it discourages people. That means property prices slump, and then in that case, the sellers suffer, and us buyers can come in and get the right deal at that point. So that's another reason why I'm not too keen on actually rushing in right now and purchasing a property. And I was actually going to purchase 2 properties before the end of this year. Well, 2 additional properties before the end of this year. But I'm probably going to hold fire and just see what the first sort of 2-3 months of next year brings. Which then leads me on to a question that I have no answer to. I'll probably try and find the answer, and I'll probably refer back to this question in the next video. But what happens when you're mid conveyancing? Basically, what happens when you're in the middle of your conveyancing process, and then it's let's say by March midnight on the 31st, the stamp duty stops. What happens if you were already in a conveyancing process by then? Does that mean that on the 1st of April you're no longer going to get the benefit of saving on the stamp duty cost? That's the question. It's not necessarily related to whether you're going to buy now or not, but I think it's quite an important question, and probably something you should ask your broker. Which leads me on to my final point. Final point is simple, right? Unemployment. Unemployment is going to go through the roof, because at the moment, once again, it's being propped up by furlough and so on and so forth. Once the next extension of furlough is done and we go back to reality, we'll realize that a lot of people have lost their jobs, right? Which means a lot of mortgages or a lot of people are actually going to default on their mortgages, which potentially could lead to repossessions. Simple. It just means that, the economy will start struggling again. It means that the property market, property sector would again go through another drop or another dip. And that's probably a better time for you to come in and suit a better deal. And that's just my opinion. I said this probably around 6 months ago. I do think that there will be a lot of repossessions from this whole COVID situation. And that's where, if you are patient and you time the market right, then you can get in at that particular point. But with that being said, some people treat the property market like the stock market. You have different entry points. So nothing stops you from buying now and also buying later on when the property market is lower. And then, you have what on the stock market you call a cost average. You can have something similar in the property field. But in my case, I think I'll probably wait, because some of the properties I'm looking to purchase, I'm looking to actually flip on a short-term basis. So if I'm not playing a long-term game with it, I'm probably better off waiting and enjoying that dip and making a profit back out of that dip. And that's just my opinion. Hopefully this video has been very informative, very insightful. I hope it hasn't been too much. Make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I look forward to my next video.